Mickey 17 rules the box office weekend. But at what cost? Jeff Bezos writes the blank check for James Bond creative control. And how long is Avatar Fire and Ash? All this and more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Screen. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Ryan, and that's Jake Holtzclaw. Jake, how are you?
Doing all right. I fear we may be getting our takes are getting hotter and hotter as the days go by because a lot of people do not like that Adrian Brody had to use AI for his Hungarian accent.
Really?
I am seeing quite a lot on my social media, at the very least, that um, that is not a common take. That it was okay to do that. A lot of people think him as well as Emilia Perez do not deserve their Oscars.
I don't think people can differentiate between the. So the thing is, I can understand if you don't really like read into it very much, like why. Especially like you could even read into it a little bit, and you could all you would see is that they use the same company. They both use the exact same company from Ukraine. You know, if you saw that, you saw they both used AI. You're forgiven for being like, that's not cool for them both. But when you really delve into it, again, as we've talked about on here, I don't care if it's a hot take; it's the right one. I mean, Adrian Brody and those who had their dialects slightly altered, because a Hungarian accent or a Hungarian dialect is one of the hardest to learn if you are the director or as the editor put it, if you're an Anglo-Saxon speaking individual, it's impossible to just pick them up. So he, as the editor, was like, I want this to be the best film in quality. I want a native Hungarian speaker to have a tough time deciphering if they're native or not. All he did was change a few syllables here and there. That, in my mind, does not change the performance. You know, like
And people are saying that instead of hiring Adrian, you get a Hungarian native speaker to do it.
there's room for that, but what Hungarian speaker is going to pull the audience Adrian Brody does?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it all boils down to money.
Yeah.
You're gonna throw money at Adrian, and your movie's gonna get an Oscar or two,
Yeah.
right? So somebody who is investing, I'm gonna choose Adrian and then deal with the backlash of AI rather than as a business. However, is it right to, are you gonna hire a uh, non-trans woman to play Emilia Perez, right?
I mean, the thing is, this is the difference between, and we talked about that difference. Okay. Emilia Perez, we talked about it before. If this is your first time listening, hello. Thank you. Thank you for joining. If you haven't,
We aren't this political.
no, and it's not even really political. It's just a matter of like the difference between what one used AI for and the other. One, in my mind's okay, and the other's not. Adrian Brody's his performance was not altered. However, Gascon, who is the performer who plays Emilia Perez in Emilia Perez, they synced her voice with the French pop star who wrote the music. They used AI to merge their voices together so that Gascon's performances could have a higher pitch. That is directly impacting their performance. I have never heard a more cut and dry, like, we're going to elevate this using technology. That's the reason why AI is so scary, is because it's like, what's authentic, right? No one caught it until right before the Oscars. So it's like, I think Adrian Brody, again, yes, you can make that argument, and it's not an invalid one. Find a Hungarian actor who can do the dialect and who can perform. And I'm sure there is now I'm going to say this and I might regret it. There might be a Hungarian actor out there who can perform at the level of Adrian Brody, sure. You know, like there are a lot of really good actors out there. Regardless of what actor you pull in, though, what other performer that is not American is going to pull in the audience that Adrian Brody did? You know what I mean? And if you bring in a Brit, if you bring in whoever, Idris Elba, whoever, they're not going to have the accent either. So I don't know. I don't see the hate for Adrian Brody. I completely understand why you would want to criticize Gascon more, because their performance, if you can't hit the high note, don't hit it. Don't make that a part of the song. If you want them to hit a high note, let them hit as high as they can go. At least keep the performance authentic, because then maybe they would have deserved an Oscar. And I'm happy that one got it and one didn't, because I think that's a valued distinction.
So I just wanted to bring that up to light, because it is getting hotter as we go along, and people are thinking that Brody was pretentious during his speech, because I would assume they're also angry about the AI. But that's nor
Let the
here nor
man
there.
speak.
But I'm just I'm bringing that about. If anybody at home didn't know about that, that is still a somewhat tense debate.
I thought it was kind of comedy when he was like, "Turn the music down. I've been up here before." I just thought it was, I don't know, like dog had things to say.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, dude, aura. The man has aura."
Bro, Italian hands, just
Bro.
bro. That's the guy. That's so funny. No,
So,
I don't. I didn't take it as pretentious. I didn't take it as aura either. I just took it as a guy who had things to say. Who and the thing is, I think his point is valid. He's been around the block. He's done this before. He's been in the time constraints. He's given his 3-minute speech. Let the guy yap. He just won Best Actor, and he deserved it. He deserved it. So just, I don't see why it's a big deal. I really don't. And the AI, sure, you argue for it. Not that you're not invalid. I think you're wrong, but that doesn't mean I'm going to look at you and say, it's going to be, we can agree to disagree, but whatever. If it's hot, it's hot, but it's correct. Anyway, moving on down the line after that, I'm sure maybe that will be what we have to do to get some interaction in the comments. maybe us just being really pretentious ourselves and just telling people they're
the
wrong.
hottest of
Yeah,
takes. Yeah, you're wrong.
you're wrong. Just it doesn't matter.
Well,
Be
you're pretty good at that when you pronounce a word and I correct you.
wrong,
You're like, no,
wrong.
wrong, wrong. Uh,
Anyway, going down the list here, as you heard from the jump, if you weren't paying attention to the intro, which I'm sure it's easy to miss, but
we can play it again for you
yeah,
if you want.
actually, I'm just kidding. Bong Joon-ho and Warner Bros. Robert Pattinson starring sci-fi comedy Mickey 17 opens its theatrical run atop of the box office charts, earning 19.1 million and dethroning Marvel's Captain America: Brave New World for that top spot. For those who don't know, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who really do know what this story is about, but because it's new, we're always going to read the log line just to give a little bit or maybe a little bit of a synopsis just so people kind of have a better understanding. According to IMDb, the log line, Mickey 17, known as an expendable, goes on a dangerous journey to colonize an ice planet. And the ice planet's called Nephilim. And there's a lot more to that. It's based off the book called Mickey 7. And apparently it's pretty good. So thing is, a lot of people like it. Critics and fans alike are saying it's a pretty good film. So 19.1 million, top the box chart. You got good ratings. What's to not love about this, right? Well, we'll get into that. So despite peaking the box office summit, this is still a far cry from good news for Warner, as their newest film costs around 118 million to produce, spending another 80 on marketing. So in short, the film needs to make 300 million or around that total before it earns its money back and then some. So thing is, as things stand, they're a far cry away from making any sort of money, and it did not do as well as it needed to. 200, 300 million is insane. I would never have guessed that this film had that kind of budget. It almost makes me wonder, like, what were you thinking if you're Warner Brothers? Like obviously it's Bong Joon-ho. He's coming off a Parasite. So it's like the logic is kind of there, but that kind of budget is insane to me. So anyway, you talk about the cinema score and the Rotten Tomatoes, the ratings, to give you some of those. It has a 79% from Rotten Tomatoes and a B Cinema score, which are both pretty good. As things stand globally, Mickey 17 has made 53.3 million. So they're about a sixth of the way to where they need to be to make money. And it's been a slow box office, and it's not looking like it's going to improve until about May when the next Marvel movie, Thunderbolts, comes out, which we'll talk more about that in a minute, I think. But Jake, can Mickey 17 turn itself around and capture some of what Mufasa has going for it in terms of its staying power? Or will it just not turn a profit?
I would say break even, and that's best case scenario. I'm not seeing the. I don't know. I don't see the comeback. I think it's just going to be a slow burn, and you'll break even, and it'll go down as another one of those Pattinson kind of like good movies, but ultimate flops in terms of like moneymaker. Which I don't. I hate to say it's going to hurt Pattinson, in terms of his career. I would say. I mean, how many films has he actually been in outside of Twilight that didn't do well? He's got a few. I mean, they may be good, but they aren't successes.
I would say outside of Twilight, it would be Tenant and Batman. That's probably it.
Right. And so he has to I mean, and I'm not saying he has to, but like Batman comes with an audience.
Mm-hmm.
So Pattinson himself, as great of a actor he is in everything I see him in, um, he doesn't seem to bring success like other bigger names, like we've talked about before. I mean, I go see an Adrian Brody movie because Adrian Brody's in it,
Mm-hmm.
and we reluctantly say that the same for Dwayne the Rock Johnson, reluctantly, but people go see movies he's in, and it just doesn't appear like Pattinson
Yeah.
is there yet.
I would say is probably the type of films because if you look at Adrian Brody, he's in like the Pianist, you know, or he's in
Yeah,
The Brutalist, which are like these really human stories, right? People are interested in them. Like they make you feel, you know, like the Wes Andersons of the world, which a lot of those Wes Andersons did not perform well. So like even Brody has some of those, but The Rock, they're all family films. You kind of know that's the thing. We've talked about this before early in the show's history. There's like a level and a line of expectation every Dwayne the Rock Johnson film, and it's just you know you're going to get an action, you know you're going to get some comedy, you know it's going to be a good family movie. Like you could take your kids to it, and that's why they make so much money. And most of the time they're Disney or of some
yeah,
sort of whatever. So I think the thing is that Robert Pattinson takes these films from like a Bong Joon-ho, who's like they're not really well known. Mickey Seven, I'd never heard of the book until the movie. And they're really artsy, very art housey. Like you think The Lighthouse, you know, like that's a very art house film. Not everyone's going to be into that. Really, only cinephiles and cinema lovers are going to know what that is and really enjoy it, unless you were a guy who happens to kind of like film and you stumble into it. So yeah, I think that that's probably the difference. Is that like this seems to be really niche, and it just doesn't have. Asking about staying power. I don't think it does. I think that if it makes 150, it will be lucky. I think it could make two if it does well overseas, which it's starting to. But this just screams to me that it's going to underperform, and if anything, it's going to perform a lot better internationally than it will or domestically. Um,
yeah. So just remember, everybody, Dwayne the John Roxon
Dwayne the
caught on
John.
tape. So,
If you're
all right,
watching this, Dwayne the John. Anyway,
you're
coming in
renamed.
second, yeah, you're renamed officially beyond the screen. Anyway, coming in second is the previously mentioned Captain America: Brave New World. The film earned another 8.5 million in its fourth weekend in theaters, so after a month, it's made a pretty good amount, pulling in a domestic total of 176.5 million and a global total of 370 million. This is still, if you're Disney, if you're Marvel, you're like, this is cash in the bucket because it's about a $90 million profit once you add in like production value and marketing. So they probably spent around, what is that, 370? They probably spent around 280 just to get it out. So they still made a profit, but because it's Disney, as we've talked about in week past, they're still going to be like, ugh. So anyway, going down the line, not a lot to say about Brave New World other than that you talk about that Disney staying power. There it is. This is its fourth week. It's not even a. It's like it's good, but it's not like the best Marvel movie, and it's just there. It's still there. Focus features Last Breath, starring Woody Harrelson, finishes third on the weekend, earning a respectable 4.2 million, bringing its domestic total to 14.6 million. The film cost around 24 million to produce, however, and with a 47% decline from last week, it's not looking good for Focus as the producer hopes to break even on their documentary turned thriller with the same director. Again, we talked about this last week. Focus features Woody Harrelson's Last Breath, finishes third this week. Going on to fourth, Neon and Osgood Perkins' The Monkey comes in fourth with his third weekend in theaters, earning another 3.9 million. Now, while other big budgeted films have struggled to make a profit, Neon's tried and true method of smaller budget, bigger reward type films continue to make waves. Every time they release a film, they have a small budget and they absolutely dominate, whether it's making you spend 6 million and you get 30 million, or in this case, this budget was about 10 million and they've made about 45.7 million internationally. That is huge because you know they're not going to spend the same amount of money. And I bring this up because, as we talked about earlier, going down that list, how many of those films, if not all three of the films preceding it, they're just not going to break even or they're not happy with what they made. So Neon, and I don't remember who it was, but someone made a point, I think it was at the Oscars, where they were like, why instead of making a $200 million or $1 million movie, why not make like 54 million or 10 million? And I think that that's a great point, and I think that this is just a little sidebar. I think this is a great example is because Neon, Anora cost 6 million to make. They just won Best Picture, and they probably made more money winning Best Picture and sweeping the Oscars with Sean Baker winning 4 than anything. Anyway, sidebar.
Oh yeah, and you can see it. I mean, theaters, 1,100 theaters picked up Nora again, and it just got another. It's up 573% over last
Insane.
week.
Made
Made
around
another
2 million.
1.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it won the Oscars, either people. I would say it's not so much people rewatching; it's people actually. Oh shit! It won an Oscar.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch it.
What's its total? What's its just its
18.3
isn't that domestic or is that its total? Press on.
domestic.
Oh, that's domestic. Okay.
I will click it. Uh, let's see here. Domestic, all time. You have to bear with me here.
It has made worldwide. It's made 46.7 million on a $6 million budget, and I read somewhere they spent about 18 million on their Oscar marketing. So they've made about a $22 million profit, $23 million profit, and they have 5 Oscars to their name. And they just released another subpar movie because The Monkey's not great, and they just made another 20 million off of The Monkey. Last year, Osgood's first feature with Neon, Longlegs, made 50, 60 million for the producer, the indie distributor. I mean, I don't know what, I just think that this is such an important comment to make in the wake of Anora winning Best Picture. And you turn around the weekend after Anora wins Best Picture, you see all these huge companies who are paying $200-300 million for a film losing money. And arguably better films that are spending less and doing more are making profit. Anyway, I digress. That's a little sidebar there. So finally, we're going to finally wrap up the top 5 because if you didn't know, we had not made it there yet. We've mentioned about 6 films. Top 5, rounding it out, Sony's Paddington in Peru shows some staying power as the film earned another $3.8 million in its 4th week in theaters. This brings The Lovable Bear's 3rd cinematic installment to just a hair under $37 million domestically, with a total of $36.9 million and earning $175.7 globally. So Jake, with all that, we kind of touched on Anora. That was going to be my big winner this week, and it will still be my big winner this week. 500% jump in revenue from one week to the other, jumping into the top 10, top 7, I think. Insane. It's probably going to make 20 million before the month's out. Not 20 million just in this month, but going to hop from 17 to 20. What do you think about this box office?
Paddington is almost tied with Paddington 2. So Paddington in Peru is almost tied with Paddington 2.
That's crazy.
Paddington 1 almost doubled Paddington 2. So not as good as the first one. We knew that. Sequels and what are they called? The 3rd installment.
The next in the series, if you will.
Unfortunately, Paddington does not seem to be. Does anybody know rating? Ryan, I say anybody as in the only other person on this call.
You at home.
6.7 out of 10 on IMDb with a 93 Rotten Tomato. So it's still, I mean, it's not Paddington 1, which got awesome scores, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody loved. So
what's crazy?
That's
so I'm looking at.
I wanted to point out.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's about it. Pretty much. Woody Harrelson. It's sad, but that's pretty much my thoughts on this week's.
I looked up, and I have some comments about Last Breath or Deep Breath? I'm blanking now in this moment. Last Breath. That's what I thought. I have some comments on Last Breath and why it might not be doing as well. But I looked up the production cost for Paddington in Peru, and it is the most expensive in the franchise so far. $90 million to make. That is over $50 million more than the last one, and over 35 more than the first.
So they lost money on 2 and 3.
Yes.
If marketing's accounted for on 2.
I think that they've probably just made how much did they spend? How much do you realistically think they spent on budgeting for marketing? If it costs $90 million, and it's because the thing is, Paddington's a big after the sequel, you have to think it's going to it's going to cash big. How much do you spend? 100 million? 80 million?
To be fair, I might also only be looking at domestic. Let's see.
Because I can tell you, just by looking at Paddington in Peru, it has made 175.6 internationally, just all worldwide, I should say. If you add in on top of a $90 million budget, another $90 million in marketing, it's not broken even.
166. So yeah, I was only looking at domestic. I apologize. So 166 worldwide for one. I'm going to take up a lot of time and
No, it's okay.
from our audience and look up two here. So two did 283 million. So it like doubled
They're almost
one.
they're over $500 million, or yeah, half of yes. They're almost to 600-700 million in their lifetime.
175. So three is better than one profit. So sorry for you Paddington lovers out there. I will apologize. I was dead wrong. These guys are making money back.
Maybe not on the third
Um,
one though.
maybe not on the third one because they are at a 90 million plus marketing. Yeah, they're right there. Internationally, they are like it's borderline considered a flop.
I will say I will say this about I said it has staying power, and I still believe that. I just didn't realize how much they spent on just entirely. I didn't know it was a $90 million movie. They've only dropped from last week to this week 18%. They're still making 3.7 million. If that's the case, and they make 3 million every week domestically, and they've made the majority of their budget internationally, they're going to be fine. They're going to break even. They're going to get in the black, and they're going to be perfect. However, it's just going to take a lot longer because this film's already a month in. I just never would have expected that they would 90 million on Paddington Bear.
I just always thought that Paddington Peru just wasn't doing as well as it should have. I would just always see it not even it was it ever first?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe in its first week. I can go back a couple of weeks.
But well, Captain America came out at the same time.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
why
it
I don't
wasn't.
think it ever was.
So what I will say is
Oh.
to that point is that maybe it did do well. You're right. It was never first. It was at highest second. Maybe it did. Maybe it has been doing well, but because they spent 90 million and closer to 200 million on the whole film, that they just aren't making what they were hoping.
And I don't know if this was last week or the week before, but Nezha back on the box office list at number 15.
It returns.
Last week it was not, and actually, if you go back to last week on Box Office Mojo, it's there.
No.
So yeah, it's number 7
What?
underneath
What?
Lion King. Yeah, so they put it back on there.
What is this?
So Box Office Mojo, we saw it.
Get your
You
act
can't pull a
together,
fast
Box
one.
Office Mojo. You're our accredited source. You can't be pulling this crap. I got to make a
So
phone call.
dude, you should have made the phone call a long time ago.
Box Office Mojo HQ, what are you doing, man? All right, I think if that's our final thoughts, I have no other final thoughts other than what's up, Box Office Mojo. First, you finalized numbers in the middle of a recording the week before, and then last week you just phantomed one of the movies and then brought it back, acting like nobody saw that. I saw that. Anyway,
We saw it.
Jake saw
No fast ones here.
No, not here. Not on on the screen. On that note, it's time to move on. We're going to hop into our second segment after a quick break. So coming up after the break, James Bond creative control under question and under new leadership, and James Cameron comments on his next installation to the Avatar franchise. Coming up next. And welcome back to Beyond the Screen. I won't even describe what we were doing during the break. It's kind of between me and Jake. But on that note,
anyway,
hopping back
but
into
I would like to point out Ryan's frame rate's worse than mine.
Because you adjusted yours. It was just like mine until you adjusted yours before the recording. I haven't.
Yeah,
Dog,
I found hidden settings.
I plugged in and went. I said, "Give me that camera," and I went. And now you could see my hand all blurry, but you could still see me in my face. So I'm happy with it.
So if you wanted to know why I looked infinitely better than Ryan this episode,
you're always looking good, Jake.
Because I care about y'all's experience more than Ryan does.
That's what it is. He cares a lot more than I do. I just write the scripts. Anyway, moving on, going down the line here. As we have previously covered, Amazon MGM had recently bought the creative rights to the 007 IP away from half-siblings and producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who ran the franchise after inheriting it from their father and 007 co-creator Albert Broccoli in the mid-90s, 1995, 96 or so, give or take. So to recap, for those who don't remember, here's a quick fast track. There's a lot of details missing here. But if you haven't, go pay attention to what's happening with Amazon MGM and the Broccoli family, because it's kind of crazy. So the relationship between Amazon and the siblings were essentially non-existent, according to reports, and it was like that from the start. So Amazon wanted MGM mainly for the Bond IP. That was why they bought them. That just cut and dry. They bought MGM, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, because they wanted James Bond. That is the report. The entire reason. So they bought this one, namely for James Bond, but to specifically, they had hopes of expanding the story into an MCU-like extended universe. So with that, the only issue were the producers. They had to inherit with it because as everything goes, the Broccoli family had a contract with MGM that was not voided when it was bought. That was kind of a part of the contract. The part of the buying process was, hey, if you buy us, you buy James Bond, you also purchase Barbara and Michael, and they had to go with it because they're creative control. They've run this their entire lives. I was reading in an article, Barbara was 2 when the first James Bond came out, and by the time she was 15, she was working on movies, the Bond movies. So literally her entire life. So she wasn't going anywhere, at least we thought. So she gets bought with, or at least her contract gets bought with the MGM acquisition by Amazon. So from a Moneypenny spinoff to a series about CIA agent Felix Leiter to a female 007 project, everything not a James Bond film was shunned by the duo as they attempted to protect their father's legacy. Wilson stating shortly after Amazon bought MGM, so back in 2022, I think is when it was, quote, "We just try to focus on making good pictures, and it takes time, and it takes a couple of years. Putting all that energy into making 10 or 20 hours of a TV show, that's a big commitment. We'd have to delegate to do that, and we've been very reluctant to delegate." So very honest and upfront from the get, like, hey guys, I don't think you're going to get this, but like it would take some of this that we're not willing to give in this moment. So following that, the relationship between the two sides, again, as was reported earlier, it was already non-existent. There were maybe some hopes that there would be some movement, but there wasn't really ever an established relationship. The bridge between the two sides collapsed when Broccoli was reportedly mortified when, during a meeting with Amazon execs, Bond was described as content, not described as a film franchise, not described as an IP. Someone in Amazon, MGM, or just Amazon looked at Barbara and said, James Bond is content. And apparently she almost passed out. Then that just ruined any hopes of ever them having common ground because they just don't see this IP as the same thing. So the straw, apparently, so if that, not all, like if you look at all that and you're like, that's a lot. Maybe this was a broken relationship from the beginning. Apparently the straw that broke the camel's back, however, was reportedly when Broccoli described the Amazon brass as effing idiots to personal friends. First off, what kind of rat of a friend do you have to where you go to your personal friend and you're like, these guys are idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. And that guy turns around and runs to Jeff Bezos. Because the second that happened, when Jeff Bezos heard about this, reportedly, he said, I don't care what it costs, get rid of her. Like a Bond villain. Like you talk about being in character. This man said, open check, whatever you want, cold hard cash, get her out of here. And that is what happened. So if you do the math, if you count up all that Amazon has spent in 3 years to get to this point, to have creative control, it was $8.5 billion to buy MGM. They reportedly spent around, we'll just call it a cut, just dry billion, another billion to pry creative control away from Barbara and Michael. So they spent $9.5 billion before ever starting to actually make content. I'm sorry, Barbara, I call it content. That's insane.
So we're going to be seeing a lot of Bond content. That's what that means to me. Is like
content.
So sorry, Broccoli.
Every time you say that,
sold out.
Every time you say that, Barbara faints in her chair.
Well, look, she took the buyout. She sold out. I have to call it content now. Amazon owns it.
It is content now. You know what's
It's now content.
You know what's so sad? In the article I was reading, and it was by, I want to give her credit, it's by THR, the Hollywood Reporter. Apparently, the reason that the Broccoli half siblings were so they were so difficult to sell, I guess, to like they didn't want to get rid of it, was because their dad, before his death, was like, hey, if it gets ruined, just you guys ruin it. Do not sell it and let other people ruin it.
Well,
and then they sold
what
it.
better way to ruin it than sit on it and not do anything?
Give it to the bald guy. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, so I don't know, but I think we're gonna see a lot more movies and TV shows because Jeff Bezos is gonna hand the golden shovel to whomever, directors, producers, and say, "Here, I've dug you the hole. Get out."
Yeah. I wonder if I just hope that they keep it. I don't know. I just don't want to see it changes too much, because like the way Bond is right now, it's cool. There's so much room. We talked about it on the show before. I think it was on the show. Maybe it was just me and you, Jake. Um, there's a theory that all the Bonds that's not like different universes or whatever. That's just one continual MI6 timeline because you see Dench as Q in a ton of them, and she plays the same character. So the idea is that like Bond is an identity that these agents assume so they don't have a background so that when they go on the MI6's like most dangerous missions, there's none of that background stuff. They don't have to worry about it. And they just assume James Bond. That's why they all have the same, like that's what not only the same name, not only the same code like code name, but also the same like shaken, not stirred, is because that's a part of the identity they assume. And that's part of becoming 007. That if they take that route and that's kind of that's the way that they continue the franchise and expand it, all for it. I don't care about Money Penny. That's like I don't care. I'm not against it, I should say. That's fine. The CIA agent, cool. That's a cool character. I guess I could go for some more, but just don't sell the soul. Don't do it. Just keep it cool, man.
Bond is cool.
Bond is cool.
Yeah. So as long as you don't lose that uh, synonym to Bond equal cool, uh, you'll be fine. But we're still gonna get. I mean, I'm betting like 5+ in the next few years. TV shows, movies, and then in 10 years, I mean, we could be we not more than 10 years. I mean, it's double-digit films. I'm betting on.
Yeah.
I'm betting like within a short time frame. Like what did he say? He said it takes
2 years.
a couple years to do 10 or 20 hours of a TV show. Which I see it as more of a series. They're not going to do a TV show, but seasons upon seasons, I would say. I mean, it's going to be like Reacher.
Yeah, I
Have you ever seen
know.
Reacher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
So,
bad.
no, it's not bad. I mean, it gets my parents going, but so that's about it. I don't watch it. I don't care for it. It's like any other series to me.
I have a couple thoughts, and one of them, the comment I'm about to make, is a comment we actually made prior, and I'm going to start with that because I remember it. We talked about this a long time ago, and we talked about how if they can't adapt with the times and if they can't acquiesce a little bit and continue to create content, maybe they should give up creative control. Do we still feel like that is what should have happened now?
Well, they wouldn't have gotten $1 billion richer if they
Get your
didn't hold
money
out.
up.
They got their money up, but no, I mean, that's what I meant by, what better way to ruin your father's legacy? Like he had said, do it yourself if you're gonna do it. Well, sitting on it for however many years,
Yeah.
and not doing movies with Bond.
You
Um,
said that, and Barbara went. She
but
stared real hard.
it's it was to that point where it's like either sell it or do something, and I don't think they were gonna do something. So I'm at that point where it was like,
It's
I don't know.
I'm in a tough situation because it's like a part of what I feel is that like it's your father's legacy. Like when you know the full backstory, because I won't even lie, I made that knowing that it was a family thing, but not knowing the whole just let it die with you and not with someone else comment. Because when you hear that and you know a little bit more, it's like, oh, like, but I am in agreement still because it's almost like, look, as sad as it is, things change. They have to adapt. They have to evolve. And if we can't let go of what it was so that it can be what's new, maybe it's time to let it go completely. Whether that means giving it a break like it's got. I think post Craig was accurate in giving it time not to just immediately pop out another guy. Because mourning Daniel Craig's 007 is a real thing. Like letting fans who had watched him since 2006 for the better part of 20 years say goodbye and let him go before saying, okay, let's get a new guy in there. That's a legit thing, and I'm happy they did that, whether or not they meant to. Now we're however many years removed. It's time to move on. I am worried that it's Amazon. I wouldn't mind if it was still just Amazon and they just, or not Amazon, MGM, and they just got a new like person in. I would be optimistic, cautiously. But with Amazon, I'm a little worried because it's Amazon, right? We talked again on the show. We've talked about at length about how Amazon was in the middle of a lot of creators' crosshairs for not really treating them properly, just not distributing to theaters, lying about contracts, and that whole sort of thing. So, three things have to happen for me to actually be really interested in this. First off, it has to be released in theaters. James Bond is he's the epitome of cinema. Has to be a theatrical release. It cannot be straight to streaming. If it is, you've already ruined it. No straight to streaming. Second, and now these last two are going to be really specific to me because this is a pipe dream and this won't happen. You have
popcorn bucket has to have a popcorn bucket.
If I don't have a gun-shaped popcorn bucket in that theater, no.
Yeah.
But no, Christopher Nolan and Henry Cavill. Those are the next two. Let Chris Nolan, because apparently the report, and it's not
Let
on here.
Henry Cavill direct and Christopher Nolan play
James
Bond.
There you go.
Okay. No,
I think Henry
go
Cavill
ahead.
could direct if he wanted to, but that's not what we're talking about. I think,
But not Nolan is okay.
I say give the guy a shot. Can you imagine seeing Sir Christopher Nolan in bed with a Bond girl?
Yeah. Sir James Bond.
Sir James Bond. That'd be so funny. But no, but in all seriousness, Nolan wanted to direct a 007 film before his schedule became packed making Tenet. You give him time to finish. I almost said Beowulf. Why? Why did I almost say Beowulf?
The Odyssey.
You let him finish his current masterpiece, which I'm sure is going to be fantastic. Then go to him and say, look, the fans want you. The fans want Cavill. We'll let you do whatever you want. Just please. And then if you do those things, James Bond will be fine. You can make your spin-off shows. You can do whatever. But the cinematic experience has to remain intact for me to care, for me not to. Because if it doesn't, if they sell and they just release it to streaming, James Bond's dead. It ended with Daniel Craig. That's just the way I think that a lot of people will see it. I will see it that way.
What's your number 3?
That was it, Henry Cavill.
Oh, I thought. What was number 2?
Christopher Nolan.
Oh, okay. You did a 2 for.
Yeah,
number 3 was the popcorn bucket.
Right. Yeah, 3. I looped the last 2 into 1, and now it's a popcorn bucket, and it has to be shaped like a gun.
Okay.
And when I pull the trigger, it has.
How about a gold finger?
When I pull the trigger, it has to like audibly play the James Bond theme.
Okay. You're asking a lot, but I think it's doable.
It's Jeff Bezos. He just spent almost $10 billion just to have the IP. He can spend whatever it takes to make me happy for about 15 minutes.
Well, at the end of the day, aside from what you said at the end of the day, but at the end of my day, it is a business that Jeff Bezos paid almost $10 billion, for an IP, and he hasn't used it yet. I don't often stroke the ego of Jeff Bezos, but when I'm called an expletive idiot, I would also open checkbook, fire somebody. It's just because it's one of those ego things, man. It's like I'm Jeff Bezos. I'm not taking that.
He is such a villain.
Well,
he is so evil. Like he's just so.
Like, yes, I can turn that cheek saying I don't have a lot of money in my bank account. But would I turn the cheek if I had billions? You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, like that ego.
You know what I'm saying? How much more hardcore, how much more, unemotional would I be about that, right? I don't care about your father's legacy. Don't call me,
Your father's legacy be damned. I'm Jeff Bezos. Here's another $1 billion.
Yes.
Get out of my office.
Dude, just threw the money in the face and dude, I mean, just
and it worked.
My wallet just this money at him.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Like, yes, I paid for the IP. You called me an idiot. I still didn't get to make a movie in however long I've had it. How long was it? 3
3
years, a
years.
little bit less than 3 years. I haven't been able to make a movie with something I bought. What do you mean I can't drive the car I just bought? And then you just told me that Toyota sucks or what,
Yeah.
whatever.
You're an idiot for buying that car. Yeah. Yeah, see? No, and again, for those who didn't hear it, Broccoli went to her closest confidant and said, they're all idiots. They're all effing idiots. That confidant turned around and ran to Jeff Bezos, and Bezos said, quote, whatever it costs, I don't care what it costs, get rid of her. That is the quote.
I honestly, I do not blame Bezos. I do not. I
think that's the wrong takeaway.
I think it's an appropriate reaction.
Okay.
But
Priorities.
also friends who turn on you too. It was Jeff Bezos is probably also not the best of friends or
That's the thing. Like, I mean, I still think it's the wrong takeaway to think, yeah, Bezos, it's your car, you drive it. But like, I don't think that that's necessarily unfounded because he did buy it, and it's one of those things that like, you bought it, I guess, whatever you want to do with it, whatever you have the funds to do that. But my big takeaway is, what kind of friends do you have to sell you out to the devil himself? Like immediately. Like I just imagine they pulled out their phone and started texting as she was saying it. Like,
Well, that friend's got to be pretty high up to Jeff Bezos' phone number.
uh,
I don't know, man.
As
Where
we were-
were they? Maybe they were at a crowded bar that Jeff Bezos frequents.
yo, Jeff. What
They
kind
just
of bar does
overheard it.
Jeff Bezos frequent?
You don't want to know.
I probably don't actually. That's a good point.
Yeah.
As
One
we've
of
been
them
talking,
bars.
the popcorn gun has re-entered my brain and it's evolved. So instead of the gun being the bucket, what if it was like inside of the bucket, or like there's a holster on the side of it, and it was a butter gun? It shot butter into the popcorn.
Oh, dude, you
I would
can't leave the movie theater or else you're gonna get shot.
But they have to look really realistic too.
Oh my God.
There you go. That, I don't know why this is so amusing to me, but I just love the idea of like, you buy your popcorn and it's like you're going into the movie theater and you just hear "Bunum" as you just spraying in the bucket. Bunum. That just is so. I would love to have one of those. If you're at home and you're any sort of handsy and you can do cool things with technology, please. I'll get a PO box and you can mail it to me. Anyway, I think it's time to get off of James Bond. Watch out what you say to your closest confidants, and maybe don't keep in your close proximity a endlessly wealthy, evil bald man. And there you go. That's the takeaway.
Dang it.
Dang it. Yeah, Jake, I guess we
Dang
can't
it.
be friends anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude.
Anyway,
Who here is bald? I got this.
bro, I've never been on the pod without a hat, so they don't know what I look like.
Y'all don't know. He could be the rich bald guy.
I could be the rich bald guy. I am Jeff Bezos. Anyway, James Cameron reveals that Avatar Fire and Ash will be longer than The Way of Water. When speaking with Empire Magazine, Cameron described the writing and storytelling process when he and his team were working on the continued story of the Na'vi people and their planet Pandora, stating, quote, in a nutshell, we had too many great ideas packed into one of movie 2. The film was moving like a bullet train and we weren't drilling down enough on character. So I said, guys, we've got to split it. Co-writer Amanda Silver described how the characters needed time before jumping from one idea to the next, this would allow audiences needed time to absorb the portion of the story that they had already been told in the second, stating, these movies are a lot more than just propulsive plot and Gregorius, sorry. I cannot read tonight. I apologize. Spectacle. I mean, these are real characters. Going back to the runtime, Avatar: The Way of Water ran a total of 3 hours and 12 minutes before the credits rolled.
And I had to pee a lot earlier than that. I have a small bit that I've added to the script here. That my take was, back in the old days, the days that Ryan remembers, when Beethoven and Mozart were still walking the earth.
We're buds.
He frequented those concerts. But anyway, so a Beethoven concert was 2 to 2.5 hours long. And a Mozart was 1.5 to 2 hours. And they lived around the same time. Mozart was a little older than Beethoven, so this was about in 1700, 1750 to like 1790. This was like the average, and they had intermissions. They had 15-minute intermissions in them. We have been, I don't know, so I'm not gonna say brainwashed, but we've learned to sit through 2 plus 3 hour long movies without intermissions. And now we're talking like 3 hours and 12 is not gonna be one of the longest ones I've seen. I mean, I think Batman's up there too, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think Batman,
Batman
the
was pretty
Batman is
long.
so.
I mean, The Brutalist was 3.5 hours.
Yeah, do we need intermissions? My question to Ryan.
Yeah.
I gotta pee, dude. I gotta pee about 2 hours and 30 minutes in. I'm like, oh man, I'm looking for my soda cup to get a refill. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to refill that sitting there in the movie theater. I'm not getting up to miss the movie. Yeah.
The word I was
Catch
trying to read a second ago before I answer your question is gorgeous. I read gregarious because I'm dyslexic, I think, and I just can't read.
I
So
would track. Do you want me to read the script from now
you
on?
know what? Your silky smooth voice, do it. No, but I gorgeous is the word. And anyway, you're asked the question about should there be intermissions? Yeah. I mean, like here's the thing. I've said it on the show and I'll say it again. I am so for longer storytelling. There is a limit. I think that we were in the 90-minute era for a really long time and a lot of films suffered, like unnecessarily so. So I am not one to say put a limit on it. If there needs to be intermissions, do it. Put in intermissions. Don't limit what a creator can do. Now, there are limits to that because at the end of the day, sometimes a story's over 45 minutes before it ends. And that's also true. You know, like a guy gets too creative. That is a thing. You can have too much of anything. However, if you have a story like these people seem to insinuate, and I know they do because Way of Water was a lot better than the original, and if Way of Water was just half of what story they were trying to tell, and Fire and Ash is the true sequel, and they had to split up the script. I'm here. I'm here for it because there's actual storytelling in Way of Water, whereas in Avatar it was just Pocahontas. It was just Pocahontas, and so
Dude, that's a wet take.
no, it's not. You just watch the two back to back, and you feel really, I've seen this. But anyway, I really liked Way of Water, and so I
You know how
couldn't.
many bathroom breaks that would take me?
How many intermissions do you think you need? Plus mine, or give or take, how many bathroom breaks do you need? How many intermissions would you want in a 3.5 hour film?
I mean, I just need the one to get me through. Like I said, I can last 2.5 hours after drinking one of those like medium to large sodas from the movie theater.
How about this?
I can't. I'm
Don't.
just saying, but
How about don't slurp down the soda in 15 minutes?
dude, we shared one last time.
We did.
Still had to go after Nosferatu. It was
Jake's
bad.
over here going just I mean the
whole
credits
thing.
haven't even rolled yet. Like the beginning credits haven't even gone through yet, and Jake's already at the bottom of his stupid
Yep.
cup, and then he's like 45 minutes. I gotta pee.
Gotta pee, dude. Yeah. Well, so the only problem, well, one of the problems, not the only one, when having intermissions, 15 minutes is probably a little long to have an intermission between a movie, but also you have to think, are we just gonna stop it? Are they gonna have to like start editing movies with intermissions? Like this is just a hypothetical. We start shooting like 4 or 5 hour films. People people need a break, dude. You gotta find a spot. If you're gonna put an intermission in, it's gonna change the story. You're gonna stop the story. It's gonna be inopportune most of the time. Somebody's gonna be so enveloped in it, and I don't know, didn't buy the soda so they can sit through it.
Save me
I
money.
don't know.
I mean, hey. No, you're right. I think that I just add the intermission. I think it's fine, but like it has to be one, and it has to be at the best time. Because again, like while I would sit through a 3.5 hour long movie, I would not sit through 4 hours. That's too
And
long.
then you know what they do? Ads.
No,
They
in the
would
middle of the
sell.
15.
They would sell the 15 minutes while you're
If
using the
your
bathroom.
film is longer than 3.5 hours, just have part one and part two. Have 2 hours or two movies, because then you could rake in the benefits even more. Because then you could have, instead of one 40, like let's say one $400 million movie, if it's really well, you can have two 350 or more, and you have a $500 million closer to $1 billion franchise, and it's one story. Just don't do that. There is a limit to even my. I said give me longer movies, and the film gods were like and now we're having a conversation of what's too long. Like how things have turned.
I mean, I'm at that threshold. I mean, Oppenheimer was up there, the Batman's up there, Way of Water was up there, and it's all about at the, and I had to get up during the Batman. I had to go to the bathroom. So that just shows you like, and that was about when he visited Alfred in the hospital is when I had to use the restroom. I was like, okay, this seems like a low point, gotta go. Um and I came back and I think he was still in the hospital. So I was like, whew, only missed a little bit there. But I'm at that threshold, dude. You get to 3.5, you start touching, you know, high threes into the fours. I can't sit that long without using the restroom at the very least. But like attention spans are growing shorter as well. It's got to be a damn good story for me to sit there and
Well,
be there for
this is
4
the
hours.
counter to the low attention span trend with social media.
Yeah.
It's just make longer films that people care about. The Batman you keep referencing, and I knew it was long, but I couldn't remember. It's just a hair under 3 hours, so it's a long movie.
Oh, okay.
It's 2 hours 56 minutes.
So I mean, it just seemed like one of the longer ones. Did you see Oppenheimer? Have you seen that yet?
I
Or
have.
looked it up? Looked up
Oh
the time.
no. I couldn't tell you. I mean I've definitely seen the film. It's
So I feel
3 hours,
it's
a flat
long.
three.
Flat 3, and then Way of Water was 312. So like I'm
Yes.
there. I knew that they were long.
Of
I'm not wrong in my assumptions that they felt long. Um, so 12 minutes off from Way of the Water. Uh, I'm. I mean, I'm gonna leave the audience with that. Is how often y'all pee?
So well, here's the thing too.
No.
You're using three examples of films that I would totally sit 3.5 hours for though. The Batman,
Yes.
Oppenheimer, and Way of Water. I would watch them now. You know, like they're great.
Right.
And what about the films that are not as entertaining in their 3.5 hours?
Right.
Then you have a problem. So yeah, takeaway is
See,
how many intermissions do you want? Should you have intermissions?
Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, which was mentioned, right? Isn't that the one that won 11, 12 Oscars in 2004?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Apparently that one is about 4 hours. Gone with the Wind, Godfather Part 2. Um, that's about it in terms of movies that all of them are decently old. Lawrence of Arabia, that's like a 1962. Cleopatra was 1963. So like older movies were hitting four, but and The Irishman apparently was four. I think I watched The Irishman, but I was at home. I streamed that one, so it wasn't as god awful to sit through and have to hold my bladder because I can pause.
So uh, I watched or I looked up, sorry, longest film runtime.
You don't want to know. That's like 36 hours or something like that, isn't it?
You're off by 12. It is 48 hours long, and
Yeah.
it's called the longest, most meaningless movie in the world. It was made in 1968.
Yep. Yep. I knew there was one that was outrageous that was just done for no reason. I mean, there was a reason. Obviously, it's to be the longest movie. But yeah, I mean,
Oh, it's not. There was no actual footage shot. It just consists entirely of outtakes, commercials, strips of undeveloped film, Academy leader, discarded reels recovered, and other filmic cast off material. And
mm,
they did that. They found enough of that for 2 days worth of footage.
oh,
Don't make a 48-hour long movie. Don't do that. I will not watch.
dude, I don't know, man.
I think that
3.5, 3:30 is my line, I would say, because I don't think I've sat through one that is 3.5.
I'll do 3.5. That'll be about my limit too. I maybe a little longer if it's really good, but like keep making movies that are as long as they need to be. But if you're over 3.5, just make 90 minutes. How about that? You know, like tell your story, but don't be egregious about it. Anyway, I think that's a
Don't be gregarious about it.
gregarious. Don't be stinky. Anyway, that's a great place to move on. Me and my probably dyslexia.
And my bladder problems.
Coming up next, before you learn more about our health problems, your quick hits in segment 3. We're going to take a quick break. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back. We took a pretty long detour there, a little at the end of that segment. So, as always, if you've made it this far, thank you. Because again, it's kind of crazy that we're almost an hour in and we're just getting to segment 3. I personally like doing these longer segmented shows. I think that they're fun to talk to and see where the conversation leads. But just the fact that you're here, because it is a lot of us yapping, a lot of us talking about things that probably don't make a lot of sense or mean a lot to the vast majority of people. But the fact that you're here means a lot to us. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, your afternoon. If you fall asleep to us, whatever, thank you so much. We love you. Like, share, do the whole thing, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We're on almost them all the major ones anyway. So just thank you. Anyway, moving in to segment 3, which as always is your quick hits. And I say that with air quotes because usually where they're not quick. We go through a lot more than we do in the main segment, but it's never quick. So going ahead and jumping into the segment, Longlegs and the Monkey director says he wants to direct a Darth Vader film / miniseries. When answering questions in a Reddit AMA, which is Ask Me Anything session, the director described the concept as, quote, the collected dreams and nightmares of Darth Vader told as short stories. What are the interests, or if we had an interest meter, where would that lie? How far is it swinging?
There are numerous comics and legends and all these different Star Wars media out there. You don't have to make it a dream sequence or nightmares of Darth Vader. He did enough in terms of his lore. You could just tell those stories. And it doesn't have to be necessarily something that has an arc or like he needs to grow as a person or get more evil. Darth Vader ravaged entire planets and people just want to see that,
By
you
himself.
know,
By himself.
by himself.
Yeah.
Drop him in, planet's yours, you know. So I don't think they have to be collected dreams and nightmares of Darth Vader told as short stories. I think they can be short stories of Darth Vader's reign over the galaxy. And I think the interest meter is pretty high on that. You put Darth Vader on anything, the interest meter is high. I don't think dreams and nightmares is the best approach to stories about Darth Vader.
Yeah. And I will say that my interest meter just on what he said is pretty high, but what you said is even higher because then it adds like a sense of realism because in the dreamscape, it's kind of like what's real, what's not. Is he reliving past things or is he imagining this? And the thing is about the dream is that like it's almost like he was burned alive at one point. You know, like he's lived through a lot of pretty terrible things that when put to screen are pretty traumatic in of themselves. You don't have to go to the dream world. And I think that's a great perspective to take and a great point to make because I would not have thought about that, but that's a great point. If my big takeaway is if Osgood Perkins, who is a fantastic aesthetic director, he's a great shot composer, he's fantastic with visuals. Do not let that man near a script. Don't do it. He can do Darth Vader because it would look amazing and it'd be scary. We need more horror in Star Wars. Do not let that man touch that script because any script he touches is just Swiss cheese, just holes everywhere. They don't always make sense. And like, please don't let that man touch that script. If you get a good writer in there or you let Dave Filoni write that script or Jon Favreau or do whatever and take it from the source material you're talking about, chef's kiss, it'll be fantastic. And it'll be something I'll turn into because I think Osgood Perkins has all the makings to be a good director in anything he touches. I just don't think he's a good writer. And that's just completely personal. You know, it could be the editing room that ruined, or I don't want to say ruined, but that took away from the stories in his films. Could very well be. However, from what I've seen, it's a lot of story that's the problem. So, Oz, respect. I like your movies. I think you've got all the potential in the world. And you don't need to know that because, I mean, you don't need to hear that from me because you're already making it. You know, you're making feature lengths and you've been in the business a long time. Don't write that script. Let someone else do it. Please just write with your camera. Don't, some people can, some people can't. And anyway, moving down the line, and I breathe before this next one because it's a doozy. Somehow, some way, David Arquette will be returning as Deputy Dewey Riley in Scream 7. This is despite the fact that Honora herself, Mikey Madison, stabbed the guy 50 times in the chest in Scream 5. The guy, there was no chest left. How?
Yeah.
So Arquette joins the returning cast members Scott Foley, Matthew Lillard, Neve Campbell, and Courtney Cox. This is just following a continued theme of old stars coming back. There are rumors and mentions of a potential plot involving AI, which could redeem it, but even that feels like a stretch. I have a very strong opinion about Scream. I love the franchise, but Jake, I want to hear what you think with all that, with everything, because we talked about it a number of times now. What on earth is going on with Scream 7?
So, dang, the murderer has escaped me. Name of murderer. Who is it? Sorry.
Who from which one?
Ghostface.
Oh,
Ghostface.
okay. I was about to say, dude,
Right, okay.
there are about 6 iterations of Ghostface.
His lineage in consciousness. What is it?
Consciousness.
Dude, I can't
You're
talk.
asking me to pronounce
hanging out with
words?
you. I'm hanging out with you too often. So that is now AI. It's been uploaded into a computer, and we're gonna see toasters kill people. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
That's
What do you think?
that is, you just described the plot of the sequel to The Ring.
Okay.
When she, because do you know the whole story behind The Ring?
Isn't that the one that comes out the VHS?
Yes, tape 7 days. Like crawls out all
Yeah.
the girl. That's essentially what happens is she gets online and on the internet and she just goes buck wild. And that's
Well,
the
AI.
Scream Ghostface on everyone's computers. No, I think it's going to be some sort of AI manipulation of like, because the whole point is that like they're using a voice modulator or like a voice disguise thing to like talk, and that's how the person who plays or who voices Ghostface is Ghostface every single film, is because they all use the same for whatever. I think it'll be that. I think that it'll be a lot of phone calls and maybe some like deep fakes, like AI, like video calls or something. I doubt we'll see them physically unless they take, because the thing is that in Scream 6 you saw Skeet, you saw now the name of the villain is escaping me, and I'm gonna look it up real quick. But you saw the lead in the first, the main killer in the first one. He come back because the lead in the 6th was her descendant, and she had the same, like, I guess you can call it mental illness. So she was like manifesting him in like some sort of like dreamscape and all that. They cannot do that again. They can't. This is my opinion on Scream. You need to give it a break. Leave it alone. Because the thing is, once you fired, oh God, now I'm going to forget her name too. Hold on. Scream 6. Once you fired part of your cast and you lost Jenna Ortega, you lost Melissa Barrera. Once you lost Melissa Barrera because, well, you didn't even lose, you fired her because of, she made a, she shared something on her Instagram story that said Free Palestine. And then they said, Spyglass Media was like, fired. And so she was, and there's a lot that went on around that was happening, not just in the world, but there was another person who, and I don't remember who they were at this point, but there's another actress who said something similar, but said something extremely racist. So that like Melissa's comments online were directly after that. I think Spyglass like knee jerk freaked out and then fired her. Still, you lost. You kind of did this to yourself. This is self-inflicted wounds. You lost your director. You lost both of your leads. You got to figure something out because people want to Scream 7. So you go, everybody come back. AI is in the news. We'll do AI. We'll be meta. And it's just like, this isn't going to work.
That's what it is. They're doing the quest, meta quest, and
Oh my God.
it's an AI like entity in the meta world, killing people, but real, but they die for real.
If I see someone with VR and Shaggy, if Matthew Lillard's like, you know, he just pops up in their VR headset, I will leave the movie theater. I'm done. Like, again, what I said about James Bond was you give it some time, you reset, because there will be a lot more interest in it. Right now, there's still bad, like, I think Melissa Barrera's firing, there's still bad taste in the mouth of big time actors and audiences regarding what happened with her, and no one really knows where the story's going to go. And you can very rarely do you feel the scramble. You know, very rarely do you feel them tense and be like, oh, what are we going to do? This is what it feels like. From the super outside perspective, I'm not trying to act like I know more than I do. That's just what it reads to me. I say just give it a break. Once you lost Melissa, once you lost Jenna, and your story went out the window, Give it a break. Let people get excited for it again, and then start fresh. There's no better healer than time. You know what I mean? Especially to your reputation.
And I think they're to the Fast and Furious point, so I'm the wrong person to talk to about the legacy of Scream.
Do they have too many movies? I don't think so. Could they get to that point? Yes.
Dude, they're at 7.
Have you watched any of them?
No. First one. That's all I
They're
needed.
pretty good. I mean, there's some of them that are worse than others, but until now, I felt like they followed a decent story. Like, I didn't feel like they were overdoing it. Maybe one of them was like, but like, I thought they were fine. Now, that's why I'm saying maybe give it a break, because this is the first time with the Scream franchise where I've been like, you're just doing it to do it now. Like, you don't even have a story anymore. You're just making the film because people expect it. So, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of Adrian Brody, we've been talking about Adrian Brody a lot today. Brody is in early talks to star alongside Leo DiCaprio in Damien Chazelle's upcoming Evel Knievel biopic. Rumors indicate that Brody may play sports promoter Shelley Saltman, an individual of which Knievel assaulted following the release of a rather unsavory book that was about the stuntman in some way, shape, or form. So, if this is the character that he plays, you're going to see Leo DiCaprio just deck Adrian Brody. How does that make you feel as an Adrian Brody stan?
I think as long as DiCaprio can make it look good, I know my man Brody can. Nah, both of them are Oscar winners. Let's be honest here.
Okay,
But
here we go.
no, I think that's fine. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it yet. Don't know necessarily. It's a biopic. It happened. What else is there to say?
Damien Chazelle's one of those that worry me because he's so good. He's like Osgood Perkins, where he's got like such a very distinct look in his eye, and he's just he's inept for visuals, is so strong. But then there are times where it's like he did the Elvis movie. Dog. The concert scenes were great. Some of the creative decisions were so odd. Like the CGI'd like Las Vegas like doing the slots and stuff. The what is that called? Why am I blanking on a casino?
Casino.
Yeah, where they had Tom Hanks playing Tom Parker, who was Elvis's manager. He was telling the story back while in a CGI casino. No reason. Tom Hanks had an accent. Colonel Tom Parker did not have an accent in real life. Tom Hanks just wanted to do that. And
so is that on Damien or is that on Tom Hanks?
You let the guy do it. Yeah, that's on you. I don't care if it's Tom Hanks or not. Like, like it's just like he does this thing. He has this like tendency to lean into the fantastic when he shouldn't. So it's like, I don't really feel like Elvis's story should look like Speed Racer, but it does at times. I don't think Evel Knievel needs to look like Speed Racer, even though Evel Knievel is probably a lot closer to Speed Racer than Elvis. You had Austin Butler, who did an Oscar-worthy performance as Elvis, and you almost ruined it because of your storytelling decisions. Now you have Leo DiCaprio and potentially Adrian Brody about a stuntman for one of the craziest stunts we've ever read about, because we talked about it. Go back and listen if you didn't hear last week about what the story could be about. I just want him to settle down. His imagery can still be as crazy as he wants it. Cool off with the CGI, cool off with the weird transitions, and just have fun. That's kind of my take on what this could potentially be.
Take a page out of Nolan's book and actually jump the canyon this time.
Yeah. Leo, you're getting on that bike.
Yep.
No netting.
Rocket propelled.
Yeah, I forgot about the rockets. No, there's actual rockets, Leo. There's actual rockets.
Yeah, yeah. And your parachute's going to go off early, and you're going to fall to the bottom of the canyon.
Do you want that Oscar or not?
Dude, you want another one.
Yeah.
Brody's got you.
Yeah.
He's already got 2.
But why do you think he brought him on? You could just point to the other trailer and be like, it's just Adrian Brody across the side.
Brody's got 2 Oscars in the window of the trailer. That just making fun of DiCaprio.
Imagine having one.
Come on, dude.
Imagine having one Best Actor.
Dude.
Imagine having one.
Just one.
Bruh.
That's crazy.
Leo be slacking.
What, didn't he have to get mauled by a bear?
Yeah, he did. The second those jaws clamped, the academy was like, "Bro, we got to." It's-
Yeah, yeah. And what did Adrian have to do? Fake a Hungarian accent.
didn't even have to do a real one.
Didn't even have to fake a Hungarian accent.
He didn't even.
Jeez, man.
There was no Hungarian accent on that set. There's
The links that DiCaprio had to go through to
just
get his Oscar.
what about that guy? Just Adrian Brody in the corner. Anyway, moving on.
So,
British actor Papa Asidu, who is of Men and the Lazarus Project, also a film called I May Destroy You, has officially been cast as Severus Snape in the upcoming Harry Potter series by Max. This comes after long speculation and rumors that HBO was targeting the British actor. It was also announced this week that Janet McTeer of Ozark and The Menu was also cast as Professor McGonagall. What do we think?
I think it's interesting. We've talked about this before. Go back, try to find it. Other podcasts. It was, can Papa, I guess, embody Snape, because he doesn't. And this isn't about race or skin color. This is purely, he does not look like Snape is described. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use, I don't know off the top of my head the exact quote from book, but emo depressed man
Greasy.
child,
Yeah.
greasy, yeah. And this guy is not that. So going from that, I hope, I have no doubts that he's able to do the part. I hope to God costume and makeup make him who he's supposed to play.
Oh, I think he can
Is that
totally play the character. But if it makes you feel any better, to back your point up, if you look up the actor and Harry Potter, some of the first articles are, is he too hot?
Yeah,
And those are legit questions.
correct.
And so I get what you're saying. And I don't know. The thing is, I read these and I see these and I know I recognize all the titles and it's like, all right, I've seen a bunch of them. And it's like, these are just there. You will not find a better like crop or a better just factory of good actors than those out of the UK. They just, I mean, just it feels like almost every actor is British or from Ireland or Scotland or just, they're just all fantastic. Think Cillian Murphy, Tom Hardy, Idris Elba, like all of them are British. Daniel Craig, and those are just on the ones that are off the top of my head. So these are all fantastic actors and they're all fantastic at what they do. So I think that in terms of talent, I think they can do it. I don't think you're gonna. And I hate to say, oh yeah, this is just your run of the mill British casting. But the thing is, the run of the mill British casting will be some of the best acting you've ever seen. So I think that it'll be fine. I think that they will do what they have to do in terms of Hollywood it up to make him look like what he needs to. I'm sure he blew away the producers in his casting for them to target him so long because Asadu's not like a super household name over here. And while obviously over there, the entire cast has to be British for Harry Potter to be Harry Potter. That's like a rule. It's with the movies, it's with the series. So maybe he's more of a household name over there. But it's like, this is a guy they seem to believe in. And that's enough for me, at least to
Yeah,
believe that he has the chops.
exactly. And I just wanted the point to be made. It's like, look, there's gonna be, um, he is too hot. I'm
I was just about to say,
straight up.
Jake, he's too hot. It's just that's a takeaway.
Yeah, that's and Alan Rickman. No offense to my beloved, my dearly departed, Alan Rickman. He was not the best looking
He
fella.
was the sweetest. Don't you take that back. He's such a
Comparatively,
I guess
he was not.
that's a good point. If you want to compare him.
So modern day beauty standards, comparatively. So
On the last, oh,
I have
sorry, go ahead.
said what I have spoken. I have spoken.
I have spoken.
That is pretty much it. It's is this guy too hot, and can Hollywood make him ugly?
Can you imagine you don't get a role because you're too attractive? Hollywood beauty
Painful,
standards,
man.
all there. Yeah,
It's a
painful.
pain.
Why do you think I'm not an actor?
Dude, I can't get any roles. I'm too good
They
looking.
look at me and they say, "Dog, we can't. You'd be too distracting in the
No,
film."
no. We decided to go with Henry Cavill, just step low.
We had to go down a little bit. All right, the B tier.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Actually, we are the reason that Bond was postponed for so long. Is just because too hot. They spent too much time on us,
Yeah,
and they were like, at the end of the day, we just can't assume that Bond would be that good looking.
I get they did call me. Barbara called me personally, and in fact, I was the one who told Bezos. I didn't know if you heard about it, but
He was so pissed off that he didn't get chosen.
what?
Uh,
You went with Henry? Just angry. Jeff. No, but anyway, going down the line, we're moving on. Actually, moving on past the point we just made, we're sticking with Harry Potter. If you were interested in potentially seeing the original Harry Potter cast returning as older characters in this generation of the wizarding story, so like you talk about Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, the whole nine, sorry, that's not necessarily going to be true because as a HBO exec pointed out, they're not interested in that kind of thing. In an interview to The Hollywood Reporter, Sarah Aubrey, who is an HBO exec, said, quote, "There are interesting people raising their hands to be featured adult actors that come on in later seasons, like the Sirius Blacks of the world. So it's been very, very fun, but we don't want to repeat people that were in the movies." I think that's a mistake.
I mean, it's saying no to some money there, for sure. So, but yeah, I think there's stories to be told afterward. It's not like the wizarding world stops, you know.
I when you have such easy cash, like fanfare, you have fan service, why do you think MCU does so well? Like they pander to their audience. They give the audience what they want. And whatever you might want to make of Marvel the last 5 years, that's why they're still around. So, I mean, like Deadpool and Wolverine just came out.
And that was fan service from open credit to end
Yes.
credit.
Well, think about what was the biggest film before that. It was the last Spider-Man.
Yep.
Both of those, their two biggest films since Endgame. Fan service. So now you have these actors. You potentially have the Daniel Radcliffes and the Emma Watsons calling you, saying, "I will play an older character. I'll play the Monocles. I'll play the Sirius Blacks." And you're saying no. The fans want to see that. I don't know. I don't get this take. This is one of those that I look at and I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, what are you thinking? I don't know.
All right.
Moving on, now that I'm done ranting about that.
The British.
Anyway, our last piece of news on today's episode, Thunderbolts has a, quote, A24 feeling, according to lead Florence Pugh. In a sit-down with Empire Magazine, they seem to be pretty busy. That's the second story we've gotten from Empire today. Lead Florence Pugh and director Jack Schreier. Oh, how do you pronounce that name? Schreier? Looks like Schreier.
We'll go with that.
I forgot to do I've been trying, ladies and gentlemen, I've been trying to do the pronunciations on the side, and I just forgot to go back to that one. So Jack Schreier is how I'll go it, discussed what makes the latest upcoming Marvel film different from the much criticized release of years past, stating it ended up becoming the quite badass indie, A24 feeling assassin movie with Marvel superheroes. So, and I'm pretty sure that was Florence Pugh that said that. So the director comes from a project with A24, shocker, it has an A24 feeling, called Beef. And with this, the film reportedly has an indie type feel, a darker story that doesn't take away from the comedy typically felt in Marvel films, as per the director himself. So with those comments, with those remarks, there seems to be a lot of excitement around Thunderbolts. It does seem to be different. Jake, are you excited?
I'm excited to tell you that it could be Schreier.
Schreier?
Yeah.
Schreier? It's
I'm not sure.
Schreier.
I just looked it up and played the AI version, and it said Schreier. So that isn't necessarily Jack saying it himself. It could be either way. I did not look up a video of Jack saying his name. But am I excited for Thunderbolts? Not particularly. I don't care for the Marvel superhero movies anymore. But I will wait. I am intrigued by the A24 feeling that Florence knows all too well. Can I take her word for it? To be continued.
How much?
I need to see a little bit more.
Not that they'd pay her to say that, but how much do you think they were like, "Hey, you should say this"?
Empire sit down with Florence and director. That
Yeah,
it does seem a little.
That's what I'm saying. It seems a little.
It wasn't like Reddit AMA. Any questions? Caught her on the street. This was a scheduled sit down
See,
with both
what
of
you're
them.
describing though is actual indie director versus people who have been in indies who are no longer indie people, with probably the
Well,
most non-indie entity in cinema.
right.
So that's kind of my takeaway was exactly that. Was it's kind of weird that you and your director are in a sit down with the biggest one of the biggest film media entertainment outlets magazines in the world, and you're saying these things exactly what audiences have been begging for. Now we did just talk about
And
how
I don't believe it
the
because it is
MCU does
Disney.
that, but
Yeah, it's Disney at the end of the day, and I wouldn't put it past them to script that.
eh,
But she could also be one of those types that's like, I'm not saying what's not true, and she believes that it is an A24 feeling, but money does a lot of
money,
things.
money, 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 money.
Money changes the way people feel and think and act and say things. So
Eh, I I think it looks different in the sense that we've not seen characters put together in a group kind of like this. Like we've seen again Deadpool, and Wolverine, but this is the first. There are a ton of in the Marvel like extended like comic book realm, I guess, throughout the infantile number of reboots in different universes that they've done in the comic books since their inception. There are so many different groups and so many different like hero, anti-hero, like I almost call them denominations, but like that we've not seen yet in the MCU. Not really seen a ton of them. So like the Fantastic Four is coming out, X-Men is going to be coming out in the next couple of years, and now we're getting Thunderbolts. So I'm enjoying these deviations. Like Punisher and Daredevil enter the fray right as Spider-Man is becoming a street level hero, which as they all should be. And that's going to be exciting to see all those type of characters come together. And so I'm excited for what could be because I think that's where you'll have a lot of interest because that's when you get into we have a never-ending cycle of characters, and that's where you'll have excitement. However, as we just described, and it per my worry as well, this seems a little too staged, a little weird. So we'll see.
I agree.
Anyway, any final thoughts to leave our people with before they go off and do their thing or go to bed or whatever?
Can we add a bathroom of sorts to your popcorn bucket? Can there be like another receptacle
How
portion of it that
so?
carries waste?
Hmm.
That's the butter.
That's no. You can't ruin this for me, man. I have a great pitch, and if he sees this, if Bezos himself, if the God himself sees that comment, I'm done.
He'll think we're fucking idiots.
Yeah. No,
And I just made this episode rated M.
we got an hour and 20 something minutes
Rated
into
R.
week 15 before we
Dropped an
dropped
F-bomb.
an F-bomb. So hopefully
If you made it this far,
hopefully your kids weren't around.
yep.
Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, I watch these guys all the time. They're completely clean. And then they get to an hour 20 into that. That'd be
Talking about peeing on popcorn and dropping F-bombs.
listen, I'd be a little pissed too, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that imagery. And that's how we'll end the episode. You're welcome. We'll see you guys next week.